Reform UK headquarters have warned their local party members not to speak to the mainstream media and new media outlets such as Tousi TV, and Rupert Lowe has once again hit back, this time with a direct letter to Nigel Farage. Good afternoon, Britannia, and hello to the rest of the world. Welcome to Tousi TV, your global news channel. The clash inside Reform UK continues to escalate as the organisers, regional and local organisers and leaders of Reform UK grassroots membership have been told not to get whether local media or new media outlets to come to do any interviews. They have been warned not to repeat the same level of views, radical views on mass deportations or Islamism as Rupert Lowe has. Rupert Lowe has now been officially, permanently banned from coming back into Reform UK, even if he is cleared after the investigation into his behaviour. And we have a letter from Rupert Lowe which we're going to go through together and get your reaction live on this live show. All right, so first things first. The leadership are slightly concerned, obviously, that there will be more division inside the party. And Nigel Farage and Reform headquarters have warned their local branches, if they have meetings or gatherings, to not have the media, to not do any interviews, despite the fact that LBC and obviously Tousi TV, we've been invited to a number of these local meetings a number of times until recently, but we are no longer allowed to speak to the local grassroots leaders of Reform, the branch chairman and all the others. And it's becoming slightly difficult because we're still waiting to hear from that side, to obviously be objective, to show you both sides. But we still haven't heard anything from Reform UK. So obviously by default, we're going to have to say this and just give you one side and try to be, I don't know, commenting on and in the middle of all this in an objective way. It makes it slightly difficult. But let's talk about everything that's been going on. The party has been holding regional events across Essex and elsewhere in recent weeks, and according to LBC and others, with the efforts to bring more people into the party. Tousi TV and other media outlets had initially been invited to these events and have been to previous ones, but members and party organisers are now strictly forbidden from doing interviews. This is the level of centralization and dictatorial centralization that we also got at one point during the Tory government, but it was a short period of time when things kicked off with Rishi Sunak as party leader. CCHQ or Tory Central Office were also warning their local branches not to speak to media outlets, but that was a bit of a turmoil situation as usual with the Tories, which was quite regular. Having said that, this level of censorship is not really that normal. You kind of get it on a parliamentary level at times when the party whip in Parliament tells parliamentarians what to do, what not to do, and that's usually with consent anyway. This is it's supposed to be teamwork, and it's happened again with the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. But on a local level, when it comes to the actual structure of the parties that you have, it does make it slightly difficult because firstly, you can't really control every single local party member. Secondly, one main problem we have is that unlike other two main parties, Reform UK, which is also now one of the main parties, a mainstream party, is not really an outsider, they don't really have the legal and constitutional structure. So even the members of the party are technically subscribers, and the branch chairman and organisers don't actually have full power. So they can't actually even rebel, because the full control goes back onto Zia Youssef and Nigel Farage as the main two directors of the company. Whereas with the Tory party, with the Labour Party, there could always be legal challenges, constitutional challenges inside the party saying, you're not allowed to, for example, stop me from doing this. I have my powers, I have my rights as a member, as a association chairman. It's slightly different when it comes to Reform UK as a company. Now, Having said that, we have this response from Rupert Lowe. As I said, we're still waiting to hear from the other side, but they're not going to talk to us. Rupert said, reform should be the party of open debate. If members wish to express support for me, they should be entirely free to do so. Judging by the sheer volume of incoming communication, there are tens of thousands who are furious with the malicious and unfounded witch hunt launched by party leadership. This stinks of desperation and its cowardice. He also continued by saying, if there is nothing to hide, let members voice their opinion. The party must belong to the members, not Farage. Hold a vote to see if they believe that I am welcome in the party or not. We are told by Farage that Reform is a democratic party. I say, prove it. So that's the hit back by Rupert Lowe. But he didn't stop here, because he also has been saying that I've repeatedly tried to do this behind closed doors privately. And I did say this over the last few days. Ben Habib got accused a few months ago of making this public, and everybody said, oh, Ben Habib is an attention seeker. Why didn't he try to do this privately? And Ben Habib himself said, I was trying for like 2-3 years, even with Richard Tice, to change the party. Didn't work. But when it comes to Rupert Lowe, he still never came out publicly. He never started this fight publicly. And until obviously the whole thing got exposed, and when the party decided to make a move against him anyway, then he's been coming out and he says this is self-defense. He's retaliating in self-defense. And this is where he can't be accused of making it public, because the party chairman and the whip made it public in the first place. Now, this is the letter that Rupert Lowe has sent out to Nigel. Nigel, my latest invitation for dinner with you did not receive a response, but I'm going to make one last effort. Our members deserve that. Without them, neither of us would be in Parliament. Their hard work, their efforts, their determination, that's what put us here. Not me, not you, them. Silencing members under threat of being removed from the party for speaking out about my treatment is not acceptable in a democratic organisation. These people are volunteers who care about their country. They have every right to express their opinion on what has happened to me. I urge you to treat them with the respect that they deserve. I know what is happening behind the scenes, and I know it has shocked you. This will not stop and will only worsen. We can all see the truth. You launched this smear assault the day after I raised the reasonable concerns about reform policy, communication and structure. What did you think it would look like? Did you honestly think it would appear reasonable? Your real motive was to remove me because I dared to ask questions, and I know you know that. As requested previously, we must resolve this in the manner expected of us by both the party and the country, in private, behind closed doors, just the two of us, to see if a better path can be forged for reform. I have asked for this on multiple occasions over the last few months with no success. I am trying one last time. But before that can happen, you must stop your malicious witch hunt. You personally have told outright lies about me on national television. I have undeniable evidence to prove this. I urge you to retract and apologize for these remarks today. Statements issued by the party contain outright lies and are designed to smear my reputation with zero evidence. I will not tolerate falsehoods, and my legal teams are working on it all. The British public do not appreciate foul play. Egos must be parked to resolve this. I am trying to do that by reaching out again. But first, you must stop your wicked assault on my character and reputation. It must all halt. I hope to hear from you. If I don't, I would like to put on record my thanks for what you did to deliver Brexit. Sadly, that legacy is being sullied by your appalling behaviour over the last week. I once considered you a friend. I no longer do. But there remains a better way to resolve this. Rupert Lowe did slightly make it difficult for Nigel now, because obviously he's saying, yeah, we should meet, but also I'm done with you. So Nigel Farage will be put in a corner now. So if he accepts the dinner, it's like, well, I'm accepting the dinner by being insulted. It seems to be over. If I don't accept the dinner, then obviously now I look bad. It's a very, very difficult position right now for the leadership of Reform. Meanwhile, Rupert Lowe has been now permanently banned, even if he's cleared after this police investigation, over his views on mass deportations and Islamism, and obviously the grooming gangs and everything else that's happened. One of the main issues with political parties, mainstream political parties, or parties that want to become mainstream, is that certain topics are a taboo. You can't be radical, you can't talk about the threat of Islamism, you can't really fight against these things. It happened when UKIP was trying to become a mainstream party. Nigel Farage left UKIP after, obviously he quit UKIP over its anti-Islam fixation. According to obviously the ex-leader, after 25 years, said he can't really recognize the party that's been run at the time by Jared Batten, because they were talking about the issues and the problems with Islam. And so this isn't the first time. There's no surprise in this. Nigel Farage has been consistent when it comes to his mainstream views against those who want to be more populist and more radical. Although some would say that he portrayed an image that he might be a populist, but actually now he publicly says, no, I'm not a populist. I've never been a populist. Some people, it's like people were made to think he is radical and a populist, but he says, well, I never actually said it. So it's a very difficult thing for people to clarify, saying, well, has he been consistent? But he kind of made us think he was radical, but he doesn't seem to be that anti-establishment. The issues with talking about mass deportation, mass migration, and Islamism, grooming gangs, these sort of things are a taboo when it comes to parties like Reform UK. Even the Tories, because they have to now pretend to be right-wing, they're talking about it. Robert Jenrick, as leadership candidate, he was talking about mass deportations because it's a common sense approach. It's not really that radical anymore these days. When countries like France and Germany are doing it, when countries like the United States of America, under the leadership of President Trump, is doing it, it's no longer radical. We are no longer leading the world on this. We're actually following it if we do it. It's common sense policy. Now, Nigel then came back to defend himself, to show the other side as well. Nigel said, I have fought against the rape gangs for over a decade. For Rupert Lowe to say that I tried to prevent him talking about it is monstrous. He told Lee Anderson he would slit the throat of the Reform Party. Lowe is out to cause damage and should be ignored by our supporters. So this was quite interesting because a lot of people said, wow, Rupert Lowe, what did he say? Then we found out he didn't actually say that. He didn't say he wants to slit the throat of Reform UK. The statement was that if you guys continue, the Reform UK will slit its own throat. It wasn't a threat. It was just saying that you're going to implode. On the issue of the fight against grooming gangs, again, many people who've been fighting against this for decades can also confirm, including Sammy Woodhouse, Tommy Robinson, and many others, that fighting against it is very different to every now and then mentioning it. So individual politicians like Nigel Farage, yes, over the last 10 years or so, have, for example, met with a couple of the victims of and survivors of grooming gangs. They have done a couple of TV interviews. They may have done a social media post about it, but it's very different to actually fighting against it. That's not really fighting against it. That's just talking about it. There are many things you can do symbolically. I could meet with the families of some of the survivors and victims, but it doesn't really mean I'm fighting against it. There are proactive moves you can make to organize campaigns, grassroots campaigns, on a more Westminster level, politically campaigns. You can do all these things, and other people did it. Sammy Woodhouse said, please explain to us, to Nigel, what it is that you've done to fight for us for over a decade, Nigel. I offered to work with your party for free and no one was interested. The only person in the party that ever reached out to myself is Rupert Lowe. And that's a good point. Mentioning something on social media or on a TV interview every now and then is not really the same as actually doing something about it. Rupert Lowe said, desperate. I said that Reform leadership was slitting its own throat by launching this horrific smear campaign against me with zero credible evidence. I raised questions of Reform policy, communication, and structure. The day after, you kicked me out. That's your real motive. So this now happened. Unfortunately, we can't have the other side because we're still not hearing anything from Reform UK. So despite trying, it doesn't really seem to work. Let's get some reaction from you guys. Hopefully, obviously, if you are Nigel Farage supporter, feel free to express your opinion as well. Clipper, thank you for your super chat saying, me thinks Farage is scared because he knows Tousi TV is bigger than Talk and GB News put together. Well, we factually are bigger. So, so thanks for that. And Nina says, right, that it's something angry emoji. Had enough. I think I've had enough of Reform. Crap. I'm voting UKIP. So that's Nina. Thank you for that. Ivan says that they are scared that you will infect them with the far-right mind virus. Reform are scared. For the record, it's not just Tousi TV. Other mainstream and new media outlets have also been banned. It's just, you know, if even the Labour Party would allow me to go to the local meetings. AFC Man UK says too many political parties are hedging their bets on the Muslim vote. It's just the demographic change. So you were like, well, that's a huge block vote. You kind of need that vote, right? That's why. Pretty stupid, really, as there's still only about 6.7%. You say that, but there's 6.7% concentrated in a number of key constituencies, and they are more likely to come out to vote. That's one of the differences. So the turnout from the Islamic side are always higher than many others. So that's the reason. Also, 6.7% is going to go up and up and up. So people politicians can see the future. They can see that eventually that 6.7% will be 15%, 25%, 50% within the next decade or so, a couple of decades. But they said by 2050, so 25 years from now, that will happen. The other 93.3% don't want them here. Well, no, yeah, to be fair, it's not necessarily that. Also, we have to be objective. So 93.3% of the UK population is not that they don't want the Islamic side. You have about 40% at least of the country who are liberal left-wing, vote Labour and Lib Dems, and they are very much fine with the Islamic side staying. So let's not forget about the left-wing vote as well. Jackie says, Farage panicking. The membership clicker is in reverse. His behaviour is showing his true colours. Thanks, Jackie. And another one says, people like Farage can shift loyalty to Petrol. Again, they keep saying they're the victims and we're the bad guys. I mean, I'm not even in this. I'm just reporting it, obviously, but apparently I'm considered also as one of the bad guys. It's the same accusations I got from the Tory party. It was quite interesting when I was reporting on the Tory infighting. The Tory party central office were basically seeing me as an enemy. But it was interesting because Reform supporters now and Nigel Farage supporters were loving it. So yes, Tousi TV, you have to report the truth. You have to expose this, when it's other parties infighting. But when it comes to now their parties, they're saying, how dare you report this? Again, same thing that the Tories did when I was reporting infightings inside the Labour Party. The Tories were loving it. Yes, go on. You have to expose the infighting. But when the Tories happened, the Tory members were like, how dare you talk about the infighting? What? That's just party tribalist nonsense, which I don't do anymore, at least. And Best Black says, I stand with Rupert Lowe. And Stu says, Reform's member count is going to drop like a pensioner's status. And it's not funny, but that's kind of funny. Pensioners, that was dark humor, guys. Although the winter's almost gone, so yay. We can be a little bit warmer, especially in the north of the country. Misha says, our country's future and it's a threat of Islam and Sharia is greater than one man's fragile ego. Ironically, fragile should be his surname. I cannot condone this behavior. Carl says Islam is the biggest threat to the UK, though. Well, Islam and the radical left, but yeah. Ivan says Farage has done nothing against our gang. Okay. So yeah, I don't think we've seen much. Again, meeting with some survivors and doing some TV interviews is not really the same as fighting against it, obviously. Essidor says, I said this before, that I think Farage is an establishment stooge, but I would probably vote for them anyway. No more. Cancelled my membership, asked them to erase my data. Bye-bye Reform. Thing is, they're still getting new members anyway, because they're getting from the more mainstream side. And so the membership reform would still go up a little bit. That's not going to stop really. And one of the interesting things to say is the Reform UK become more centrist, just like what David Cameron did with the Tory party. It kind of helps relatively short term to get the Liberal votes. So, but long term, it could backfire. So, for example, the 3 top recent defections to Reform UK, in case you're not aware, I'm going to give you the 3 top defections we've had. On the left, we have Tim Montgomery, who's a globalist liberal Tory. So globalist liberal Tory Tim Montgomery. In the middle, we have Charlie Mullins, the globalist EU Remainer, anti-Brexit Remainer, Charlie Mullins. And on the right, the latest defection is the Red Kane, who is a globalist liberal Democrat. So the thing about the 3 of them in common is all 3 are internationalists, globalists, and also liberal, like openly liberal. So they are going with the David Cameron approach to kind of get more of the centre ground vote, which would seem bigger. But obviously, there's a big chunk of the country who would not be too happy. And David Cameron lost that vote for the Tory party as well. By the time Farage picks up the fact that mass deportations is popular with voters, we would have already had the next general election. And Secret says Farage threatening supporters is no different than Starmer going after those who criticised him during the riots. I mean, in terms of comparing it, yes, because for Starmer, it was more on a governmental level and a more country level, saying the citizens of the country is like the members of the country, basically. If you criticize me, then you'll be out. So, or you'll be in jail. But yeah, for the party members, it's slightly different. It was kind of ironic because even with the Tory party, apart from that short turbulence time when the Tory Central Office also banned members from criticising things, talking to media, you were still allowed to criticise Boris Johnson as leader or even Theresa May as leader. You know, you might not become a candidate, but you were still technically allowed to do that. Right. Let's get back to some more super chats, and I guess some non-super chats as usual. Clipper says, this mess just shows us all that Reform will never have anyone more popular or competent than Farage, and therefore they can never offer any real talent to take on the Uni Party. This is the thing I've been saying the last few days. One of the issues is parties are supposed to be about the party, but we've made things more presidential anyway. People see the parties in the leaders, saying, well, I like that leader, so I'm going to vote for the party. But if the party is completely dependent on one person, well, if that person, I don't know, dies or somehow decides to retire, then the whole party will collapse. You don't want to be dependent on one person. It's very dangerous anyway. Or if that person becomes unpopular. Aaron says Farage's controlled opposition always has been, and also Sue R. Let's get some non-super chats as well, ladies and gentlemen. What's this? 3rd time lucky, UKIP for the win. Yeah, they don't have enough power yet, but that's what they said about Reform. Tommy Robinson, Rupert Lowe, supporters should vote UKIP. Well, the thing is, I've been saying this, and you know, Nick Tencone is a good friend of mine, but it's not just that, you know, people say one thing, but it's going to happen anyway. Reform managed to do this because Nigel Farage and obviously and others, they were good at lobbying, so they managed to get a lot of the rich party donors to defect from the Tory party. Money came in, and then you can actually invest more into the infrastructure of the party. So you need to have manpower, you need to have a lot of money, whether you like it or not, and you need to have local branches and a lot of local councillors if you want that party to win, because then you need to be able to have 650 parliamentary candidates. UKIP, as it stands now, doesn't have enough candidates to form a government, even if somehow UKIP becomes the most popular party in the country. So it's a difficult challenge for any party. And Reform UK did very good over the last few years. Nobody took them seriously at the beginning, but they worked hard and then they eventually got it. But now, you know, you become big, it becomes harder to manage. I am a member and I want my money back, Farage. Oh no, Farage is as bad as Starmer. He can stick his party up his armpit. I thought you were going to say something else. Andrew says, Reform have already lost my vote to UKIP unless Rupert joins another party. Well, there have been invitations from the Tory party for Rupert to defect the Tories. It's interesting because that won't really do much for the Tories. But if Kemi goes and basically everybody in Tories central office goes and the donors come back and anybody who was complicit in the previous government, the cabinets, basically go, then you might have a shot. And it's still going to take a few years for the Tories to even try to get the trust back. And you have to have fresh faces. The thing is, the Tories at least still have the infrastructure. They have the constitution and everything else. So in terms, it's like the house is there. You just need to make it a home. And the Tories still can't be trusted because you still have people in the shadow cabinet who were part of previous cabinets who messed up the country. So unless you get rid of them and bring in fresh faces and radical faces like Robert Jenrick or Sweller or Rupert Lowe or whatever you have, and then drain the swamp of the actual CCHQ, then you might have a chance after a few years. You have to be patient if the Tories want to do something about this. But I don't see any urgency from the Conservative Party to. I'm not really sure. This is a perfect open goal for them, and they have no idea what they're doing. Anyway, and forget about the trust thing, and that's going to take a while. Ronald says, David Wood. Nigel Farage's slur that Stephen Wolf was an alcoholic drug user is absolutely disgusting. Yeah, I do know Stephen Wolf, obviously, on a personal level, and he's a great guy. He's a nice guy, and he went through a lot over the last few years. Wayne says, I can see no reason to vote Reform again. The only party I can see that speaks for the British people is UKIP. Again, this could. I did tell Nick, UKIP also needs rebranding as well. Just basic rebranding. The UK Independence Party, and I don't know, it's tricky. But some people actually resonate because it reminds them of UKIP, their good days, right? It's up to them what they do. Scott says, donors set policy, members just do the legwork. Yeah. I suppose that's why most S their knickers over direct democracy, Swiss style. But the thing about the Swiss style model is also, again, you have to look at the demographic and the population, number of people in the country, and the structure of the country, because you can't replicate the Swiss model on a national political level in the UK, for example. It will be a bit of a mess, but on a local level, you can definitely do that. Direct democracy on a local level, give more powers over time, obviously. Definitely you can do that. But that's one of the reasons the Americans, especially the Republican side, always clarify saying, America, we're not a democracy. We don't want to be a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. And Charlie Kirk is actually very good at that. Charlie Kirk always clarifies, obviously, from Turning Point US and everything else is done. He always says, we are fighting to keep the constitutional republic. We don't fight for democracy, and by democracy he's talking about like more direct democracy. The US system works for the US. So for example, if you have direct democracy in the US, there will be mayhem, absolute mayhem. But if you have it on local level in Switzerland, for example, or Norway at times on local level, it works. It really depends on the culture. You can't just replicate systems for everywhere. All right, we have some super chats I missed. Apologies. We have Jonathan saying most people won't vote UKIP because it's seen as the party of the past. And it has former BNP and EDL members. Yeah, well, yeah, they still do have some former EDL members, at least. I don't know. Well, EDL doesn't exist anymore. It's tricky. It's just a basic rebranding. There's still some good people there as well. Aaron says Farage's biggest trick was push that UKIP was dead and Brexit and reform was the rebrand. The mainstream media loved that idea, killing the idea of the UK and independence. Yeah. Basically. Kim Thomas says reform sending emails telling people that they can't attend a rally unless they join the party. Trump would never do that. Yeah, of course Trump would never do that. The Republicans and they're under Trump, they're more welcoming and open. And obviously, it kind of, for private meetings and gatherings, it makes sense for parties to obviously have it just for members. But for rallies, you kind of want it to be open to public. Yes, you're going to get a few left-wing trolls, and actually that's good. You get publicity anyway, but you still have to have good security, like Trump's rallies. But Trump's rallies are open to public anyway. You just have good security, but it's good because you have to have, it's like open days. You need to have people to come, meet your members, be attracted to the party, and that's how you recruit people. And this is one thing that Reform UK was doing really well, because the Tories and Labour can't do that. They can't do rallies, and they haven't been doing rallies like this. So Reform should have taken that opportunity and taken advantage of it to actually make it continue to have it as open rallies, but that's not the case. Mon says, please get Nick Tonconi on the show. He's been on the show recently. I can bring him on again if you want. I can't just have the channel be the Nick Tonconi channel. Barbara Davis says that we need a party to tell us how they are going to implement their manifesto. At least Rupert said how he would tackle the immigration. What about everything else? But that's the other thing. Yeah, you can't just have parties or politicians that say the things that you want them to say. That's not enough. I can say all the right things. Doesn't mean I can do them. You also have to ask them, how can you actually do it? And what support and what would you compromise on? There has to be a direct communication with the public, which we don't have, which is stupid, because we now live in 2025. You need to be able to communicate more directly with the public, more big rallies with the public, not just members, but also use social media to actually communicate with the public directly. You need to be able to have, instead of having focus groups that Tony Blair started doing even more, and since then it became a norm for big parties, focus groups are nonsensical, it's clinical. Just go to the pub, talk to people, just walk around. Politicians need to become more in touch, and they're not. Right. Tommy fought against the rape gangs, not Farage. And yeah, there were a lot of people who were starting early and they were ignored because it was a taboo to fight against it properly. Stu says, new Tory immigration policy is a step forward. I mean, obviously they're going to come up with more right-wing stuff to kind of be seen as more right-wing. In fact, even the Keir Starmer's government, they've made some good announcements today, right? Technically. NHS England is finally being abolished. Thank God. Goodbye, NHS England. Let's celebrate. Let's have a 1 minute silence for the death of NHS England. That's over, but there's always a but. It's been done by Keir Starmer's government, which means they're going to make the whole system more complex anyway. So no more NHS England. That's going to go. It's confirmed. But God save the country. That's good. But they're also going to be doing a crackdown on the civil service. It's all gimmicky. Draining the swamp, gimmicky. But Starmer said when AI is ready, they want to replace civil servants with AI, which is inevitable anyway. It's not some sort of visionary, futuristic thing. It's always going to happen. Within the next 5-10 years, most of the nonsense that certain civil servants would do can be done by AI. So we can save a lot of money on that. All right. That's it from us, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to keep you guys posted. I believe there's another quick update coming out shortly because Howard Cox, another former Reform UK candidate and member, has had a bit of a clash with the mainstream media, specifically LBC. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to keep you guys posted on what's going on in Moscow later on, as obviously Putin will be meeting Witkoff and the US representatives to confirm the next plan after rejecting the ceasefire. I'm Tousi, and we are the media.